Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children all ages, making his way to the ring, it's the two-time national impeachment champion, President Donald J. Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are again, same old crap, different day. The Democrats on the warpath trying to do everything in their power to besmirch all the good deeds of Donald Trump. Folks, this isn't just about their legacy. This isn't just about hate and vengeance. This is about setting an example. This is a message to us, the peasantry. This is Nancy Pelosi. This is Mitch McConnell. This is all of the elites looking down at you and saying, "Oh, peasant, we're going to teach you a lesson so that you know not to ever challenge us again." Folks, we're going to go through this article here, House Impeaches President Trump for a second time, and we're going to listen to a couple of the speeches from some of our favorite congressmen and women. So, folks, stay tuned. Be ready. Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here. It is Wednesday, the 13th of January, 2021, a historic start to a ridiculous year. I'm sure it will be nonetheless. Folks, I know I talked like Yoda there for a second, but that's because I am wise. My ears are pointy. Folks, it's okay. Listen. Nancy Pelosi is nuts. Schumer, they're nuts. McConnell is playing with chess pieces. They're trying to teach us a lesson. They're looking at us and they're saying, "We know what you need. You don't know what's good or bad for yourself. Our little pets, our little animals, our little puppies, our little porcupines." Folks, the elites want to rule, and so they're going to try and crush us. But folks, that's not how it works in these things. You see, what's actually happening is desperation and panic. Not panic because of the Insurrection Act. Folks, I don't mean to burst your bubble, and I'm not playing it safe. Like I've said, and I'll keep saying it till this thing's over, I'm going by the evidence, and the evidence shows that that hasn't happened. I don't care what some random guy with crystals and 10 cats has to say in England, or what some nonprofit owner has to say on a recording. I need hard evidence. I have an ethical standard, folks. All right? Hey, if it happens, cool. All right. I feel like half this country has their heads screwed on backwards myself. And I feel like maybe there should have been some intervention, legal, constitutional intervention, not any kind of violence. I'm condemning that. What we're talking about is the constitutional process. Maybe he should have signed the Insurrection Act. Maybe those, well, definitely, at least in our belief, from the facts that we've seen, maybe, just maybe, Pence should have done his duty to the Constitution and made the right choice on the 6th. But instead, we see their plans. We see what they were trying to do in general. We see the elites on both sides of the aisle, neither of which have your best interest in mind, nor have their families lived in your shoes for many generations, if ever, folks. Come on. You think Nancy Pelosi knows what a non-heated toilet seat feels like on that wrinkled old tuchus of hers? Come on, folks. Listen, and I didn't steal that from Ben Shapiro. You should ask about my heritage. Listen, these people don't care what happens to this country. They don't care if it gets torn in half. They don't care if a rift forms. They don't care if Beelzebub himself comes through that rift. All they care about is winning. And in their blind determination, in their obsessive conquest for glory, for blood, for vengeance, for everything, Trump has done the unthinkable to them. We have done the unthinkable to them. And what is that? We have helped expose them for what they are, for they lost so much sight of the mirror that they had no idea what they were showing us. And boy, oh boy, did they show us a lot. Folks, I get a lot of people saying, oh, it's hopeless, oh, everything's rigged. Oh, and listen, there is a lot of rigging. There is a lot of bad crap out there. But again, overwhelm the polls with your votes. How do we do that? Talk to people in your community. Talk to businesses. Talk to people at church, people at work, people that share our views, and people that are kind of teetering about our views. Listen, the Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons don't knock on your door every Sunday for nothing. All right, it works. I'm not telling you to go knock on people's doors and bother them. All right, it's a weird time. What I'm telling you is that you need to speak the truth. You can't let this go. You have to push the message. You have to fight verbally for what you believe in, for what we believe in, for our constitutional rights and freedoms. There's two different worlds out here. One that's experienced by folks living in inner cities and living in special communities around the world. And around the country, not around the world. And then there's another group of people that live in suburbs, live in country areas, live in rural areas. Two different types of living. I mean, it could be broken up into 10, 20, 30 different types of living. I mean, we have micro categories that we could be dealing with. But just for S's and giggles, all right, ladies and gentlemen, two different types, all right? City living and country loving, baby. And, you know, that's two different mindsets, two different ideologies, two different peoples. And the whole thing about this country, folks, the whole beautiful thing was supposed to be this. It was supposed to be the country is so big, so widespread, right? There's so much culture, so many differences that you could be a Californian and be distinctly a Californian and be different than a Georgian, be different than a New Yorker, be different than a Texan, ladies and gentlemen. This country was so large in that way. That's actually a big part of why the votes for president were done separately in separate states. The states didn't come together to do this. They did the Electoral College in their own states so that they wouldn't come together and quarrel with each other because everybody is so different and has such different views. But the key to all this is the integrity of the system. The key to all this is the cleanliness of the system, is the functioning of the system. And though the system itself seems to have been burning and smoldering and smoking for a long time because nobody's been caring for the system, it's like maintenance, right? If you don't WD-40 something, it's going to rust, you know, like a sliding doors, metal joints. If you don't maintain the boiler on a ship, we're talking maybe a little bit older of a Navy vessel. If you don't maintain the boiler seizes or the boiler explodes. That's not fun. That sounds painful. Folks, you have to use proper maintenance, not just on your tools, not just on your toys, not just on regular projects and things around the house, not just on the little tag on the fire extinguisher with the dates on it. That's what that's for, the certification, just in case anybody didn't know. No. You have to maintain everything. And nobody has been maintaining our elections and our systems of government, the things that make things function. Nobody's been holding anything accountable or maintaining anything for decades. Decades! And now we have Nancy Pelosi leading the charge and voting along with the rest of the House and 10 Republicans to impeach Donald Trump. And the reason for the fancy intro is he is now the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice, even if it's all garbage, smoke mirrors, donkey show sham. Folks, this can't be tolerated. It can't be accepted. And if you think you're pissed now, just wait till you hear some of this. All right, folks, just wait. Look, this is Joshua Kaplan, again, coming from Breitbart. House impeaches President Trump for a second time. Look at this picture right here. For those listening, try not to throw up in the back of your mouth. Purple, wrinkly kind of, well, Richie wrinkly, kind of maroonish, purplish Grimace, but lighter than that. 2 shades lighter than Grimace from McDonald's. Suit jacket, ladies suit jacket, white undershirt, seeing the liver spotted and freckled, wrinkly flesh of the demon Pelosi, with her lovely handcrafted floral patterned face muzzle, chin diaper, staring at her hand and wondering what it is. No, she's in an awkward pose, folks, but she's standing there presiding over impeachment. Folks, the House of Representatives on Wednesday voted to impeach President Donald Trump for a second time over the last week's riots at the U.S. Capitol, in which 5 people died, including a Capitol police officer. The vote to impeach President Trump was approved by the House by a vote of 232 to 197, with 10 Republicans supporting the measure. The following House GOP members voted in favor of the move. Remember this when you're at the polls, Ohio. Remember this when you're at the polls, Michigan, Wyoming, New York, Illinois, of course, Washington State, South Carolina. Listen to this. Representatives Anthony Gonzalez of Ohio, vote him out. Representative Peter Majier of Michigan, vote him out. Representative Fred Upton, Michigan, vote him out. Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming, a voter out. You know, the only good thing about Wyoming is that they filmed Close Encounters of the Third Kind there. Rep. John Katko of New York, vote him out. Representative Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, vote him out. Representative Tom Rice, South Carolina, vote him out. Jamie Herrera of Butler, vote him out. Rep. Dan Newhouse, vote him out. Rep. David Valadao of California, ladies and gentlemen, vote them out. That's what you gotta do, ladies and gentlemen. The vote makes President Trump the first U.S. president to be impeached twice. I said that already. Beat your article. On January 6, 2021, a violent mob attacked the U.S. Capitol to obstruct the process of our democracy and stop the counting of presidential electoral votes. This insurrection caused injury, death, destruction in the most sacred space in our republic. Cheney said this in a statement addressing her decision to back impeachment. We've always known Cheney was a rhino, and of course we condemn any violence, especially the violence at the Capitol, and we condemn the mob at the Capitol, the mixed mob of far left and far right extremists. All right? And unfortunately, gullible people that followed them in. Again, I'm going to say this again. No violence. If you are part of a peaceful protest and people start breaking off and acting a fool, sit down. Instant sit-in. Everybody. Not only does that differentiate you from the bad guys, but it still sends a message, and it portrays what needs to be portrayed in the media to affect hearts and minds. That's how you win, folks, with more mind, not more power, not physicality, not violence. You win because more people want you to win. You can't do it alone, folks. We have to do it together. Much more will become clear in coming days and weeks, but what we know now is enough. The President of the United States summoned this mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack. Everything that followed was his doing. None of this would have happened without the President, the lawmaker added. The President could have immediately and forcibly intervened to stop the violence. He did not. There's never been a greater betrayal by a President of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution. I will vote to impeach President Donald Trump, she concluded. Folks, these are sick people. This is somebody that always hated Trump. This is a never Trumper, just like Mitch McConnell was, just like Bill Barr. Bill Barr was never our friend, just like the other Mitch out there, you know, the one who Biden forgot. I'm going to conveniently forget him as well. Look, actually, his name's Mitt, not Mitch. But look, the move by Cheney placed her at odds with House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican California, who voted against impeachment. Earlier Wednesday, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky's staff, notified Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer's Democrat New York office that Republicans will not agree to reconvene the upper chamber prior to January 19th in order for an impeachment to commence during President Trump's final hours in office. Folks, never trust Mitch McConnell. Vote him out. Republican, Kentucky. Plain and simple. Schumer, too. We can do better than this. Come on, guys. Anyway, though McConnell is declining to hasten an impeachment trial, a Republican strategist told the Associated Press the GOP leader believes Trump committed impeachable offenses and considers the Democrats' impeachment drive an opportunity to reduce the divisive, chaotic president's hold on the GOP. These people have no idea what they're talking about. The very act of impeachment will be the most divisive thing they've done thus far. Don't you agree? McConnell called major Republican donors last week to gauge their thinking about Trump. See, this isn't a man of character or conviction. This is a man who basically gets the sense of not what the people want, but what the donors want. Look at the words here. McConnell called major Republican donors last week to gauge their thinking about Trump, and he was told that Trump had clearly crossed a line. So then McConnell told them he was through with Trump, said the strategist who demanded anonymity. Or I always say that wrong. Anonymity. McConnell told them he was through with Trump, said the strategist who demanded anonymity to describe McConnell's conversations. The New York Times first reported McConnell's views on impeachment on Tuesday ahead of the House vote. President Donald Trump urged his supporters to remain peaceful during the transition of power to, I hate to say this, President-elect Joe Biden. I know, makes you throw up in the back of your mouth. Quote, in light of reports of more demonstrations, I urge that there must be no violence, no lawbreaking, no vandalism of any kind. The president said in a statement first obtained by Fox News, that is not what I stand for. And that's not what America stands for, he added. I call on all Americans to help ease the tensions and calm the tempers. And that is what we need to do. And that's what I've been trying to spread, except a lot of people who spread this message, right? A lot of them are basically not giving any direction whatsoever. They're just condemning, and it almost seems like they're doing it in a way to save their own butts and stress that they're not on a bad team. I'm not saying that about everybody. I'm just getting that sense from a couple people, all right? Don't get too pissy with me. What I'm getting at is that, yes, we all condemn the violence. But that doesn't mean that the right now just sits down and gets bent over by the left. We don't deserve that. They rioted all summer. I'm not justifying what happened in the Capitol. What I'm saying is that wasn't the entire right. That wasn't the 75 million plus people that are Trump supporters. That isn't the 75 million plus people on the right that were silenced by you. That's a small fringe group of idiots who were egged on by Antifa and BLM infiltrators. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And I condemn them all, and all of them should be tried to the fullest extent of the law. Folks, it's no joke. It's no joke what happened. But it's also really no joke the over 40 people that died, the people that were raped, the billions in damage that were caused throughout this country for months and months and months. Equally as horrible. Equally. The stuff BLM and Antifa did is equally on the same exact level as what happened at the Capitol. Plain and simple. All violence is bad violence, folks. Plain and simple. We are not at any point like that. We need to use our heads, and we need to do the right things, and we need to support peace, and we need to support people's rights to peaceful protest. All right? Hearts and minds, folks. Again, hearts and minds. Now, with that, I told you that we were going to watch some of the congressmen and women and what they had to say. Well, it's actually one congresswoman, all right? And you know who it probably is going to be, because I'm not going to show you many more people than who you already know. I'm going to show you three people who made me happy when I saw this. And that's what we're going to end this on. We're going to end this impeachment here on a happy note, okay? Because I know this is stressful for a lot of people. I know it's frustrating. And I know a lot of people depended greatly upon a lot of information that was coming out. And you have to understand there was so much information coming out. Some were rumors, some was hearsay, some was right, some was wrong. I don't know what to tell you. All I can tell you is the truth that I believe. And all I can tell you is what I see from the clues. And I'm going to take some of the far out there stuff and kind of leave it out of this. All right. And so, like I said, we're going to end this on a good note. So instead of promising you cake and ice cream and handing you a mop and bucket, I'm going to just give you the reality and the truth. I'm going to show you these three special people that spoke up for our rights and got me motivated, got me fired up. They spoke out against the fraud and the irregularities and the craziness and the hypocrisy and the censorship. And they did it for us. All right. So check this out. You know who this is right here. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. All right. It says right here, with their continued endorsement and incitement of BLM Antifa violence, the Democrat impeachment of President Trump sets a precedent that members of their party should be removed from office. Yet the impeachment is based on a lie. Again, these folks that I'm going to show you threw it out of the water. And by the way, for those listening, Marjorie Taylor Greene is wearing a black mask that says censored in big white letters across it. And it is fan-diddly-tastic. It looks great. And I'm very happy that we have some new blood in the party. And we need more new blood in the party in 2 years. So have a listen to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Madam Speaker, I am against the impeachment effort by the Democrats. President Trump has held over 600 rallies in the last 4 years. None of them included assaulting police, destroying businesses, or burning down cities. Democrats have spent all this time endorsing and enabling violent riots that left billions in property damage and 47 dead across the United States. Democrats are on record supporting violence when it serves their cause, in their own words, on social media, on interviews, and on fundraising platforms. Act Blue. Democrats support defunding the police when it's someone else's city, someone else's home, and someone else's business. Democrats will take away everyone's guns just as long as they have guards with guns. Democrats' impeachment of President Trump today has now set the standard that they should be removed for their support of violence against the American people.
So, speaking very strongly, pointing out the hypocritical nature of the left. All right, folks, remember, they did this. They burnt down our cities. They terrorized people. They murdered people. BLM and Antifa acted as their foot soldiers, influenced by the turning tides of identity politics, ladies and gentlemen. Horrible, horrible stuff. All right, but she's sticking up for us, and I am very thankful for that. And I mean, these people are on point. All right, these folks have great things to say, great things to talk about, a lot of evidence to put out, and a big finger to point into the chest of the left in Congress to say, hey guys, that's not right. You can't be hypocrites. It doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way. And again, folks, that's why I am urging you guys to find peaceful ways to influence your local state legislatures, not influence it like cheating. I'm talking influence by getting involved, becoming a part of your legislature, voting, organizing groups of people to vote for the right people. I'm not talking about illegally going and harvesting people to vote. What I'm talking about is getting people to understand our values, our core values. There are many like-minded people out there that want to be a part of something and just don't know where to go. And folks, if you network and talk to your folks around the town, your local businesses, friends, family, trusted people that share your views, you would be surprised. You would be surprised what mountains you could move if you'd only talk to a couple people, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, I want to go to the Texas representative, Mr. Gohmert. All right. This is another great one. All right. Listen.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gohmert.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Here's a quote. I just don't even know why there aren't more uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be. Or, sadly, the domestic enemies of our voting system and honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in Congress of the United States. We were called enemies of the state. Those are all quotes from our speaker. Now, on our side, we didn't take those to be impeachable because we didn't believe she surely meant that. But by the Democrats taking this action, you're telling me, no, when we say those, we actually mean to incite violence. That's what this action is saying. Look, I just looked on the History Channel. It says these words: if the Judiciary Committee, talking about impeachment, finds sufficient grounds, its members write and pass articles of impeachment, which then go to the full House for a vote. Half of all the impeachments ever conducted, ever voted for, occurred under this speaker. You're setting a precedent that says very clearly, because this impeachment isn't going to work, but it is setting the precedent. Unlike a year ago when we said, look, it shouldn't go through Intel, it should go through Judiciary Committee. Forget that. Now the message is, if you have a whim and you want to just go after a president, just go straight to the floor. No investigation, no Judiciary Committee. Go straight to the floor. Use it as a political weapon as you wish. This is so dangerous, what you're doing. Forgetting all the precedents. Yes, we can argue back and forth, but you're using this as a weapon, and you're destroying this little experiment in self-government in a year's time.
The gentleman's time has expired.
It needs to stop. I yield back.
The gentleman from Ohio.
So you have Mr. Gohmert, Luke Gohmert from Texas, and he is telling you the truth. The left is using this impeachment as a weapon, and all they're doing is further dividing us. I really think he had a very powerful thing to say there. But of course, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm saving the best for last, guys. I'm going to give you a little good old Jim Jordan to let you know we've got some Grand Slam Babe Ruth home run hitters on our side. All right, guys, check this one out.
Gentleman's time's expired. Gentleman from Massachusetts is reserves. Gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished Republican leader of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Jordan of Ohio.
Gentleman from Ohio is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, in his opening remarks, the Democrat chair of the Rules Committee said that Republicans last week voted to overturn the results of an election. Guess who the first objector was on January 6, 2017? First objector, the Democrat chair of the Rules Committee. And guess which state he objected to? Alabama. The very first state called, Alabama. President Trump, I think, won Alabama by like 80 points. Actually, he won it by 30 points. They can object to Alabama in 2017, but tell us we can't object to Pennsylvania in 2021? Pennsylvania, where the state Supreme Court just unilaterally extended the election to Friday? Pennsylvania, where the Secretary of State unilaterally changed the rules, went around the legislature in unconstitutional fashion. Pennsylvania, where county clerks in some counties, and you can imagine which counties they were, let people fix their ballots against the law, cure their ballots, their mail-in ballots, direct violation of the law. And they tell us we tried to overturn the election. Guess who the second objector was in 2017? The individual managing the impeachment for the Democrats. Americans are tired of the double standard. They are so tired of it. Democrats object to more states in 2017 than Republicans did last week, but somehow we're wrong. Democrats can raise bail for rioters and looters this summer, but somehow when Republicans condemn all the violence this summer, the violence last week, somehow we're wrong. And Democrats can investigate the President of the United States, as Mr. Hoyer went through, try to impeach him, investigate him for 4 years, but will not look at an election that 80 million Americans, half the electorate, 80 million, Republicans and Democrats have their doubts about. I said this last night. I do not know where all this goes, and this is frightening for the country. We should defeat this rule, and we should defeat the impeachment resolution when it comes up.
Gentleman's time's expired. Gentleman from Oklahoma reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
So Jim Jordan is a rock star, has my loyalty, and I'm very appreciative that some people up at Washington still have our backs, and that's something you have to understand. Through all of the stuff that we're fighting against, the ideology, the hatred that the left feels for anybody on the right, you have people like Jim Jordan, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Rep. Lou Gohmert. They're fighting for us. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Rep. Gohmert might be on the way out. I believe he might. I think possibly coming up. I'm not sure. I might be incorrect. I might be thinking about somebody else. But regardless, if you're not watching this stuff, if you're not going on C-SPAN once in a while, I'm telling you, it gets entertaining. It really does. And it's important to know. We have to be armed with the fact. We have to be armed with the information. And even though the left doesn't want to hear it, that's no excuse for us to become ignorant. That's no excuse for us to not know what's going on. It's no excuse for us to forget what happened this year, because we're going to challenge this forever. All right, folks? This isn't it. This isn't over. This isn't a time to be all depressed. Sometimes in life, things don't go your way. They just don't. And that's okay. We have an amazing president. He did an amazing job. All right. Not everybody liked everything about everything, and that's okay. Nobody ever does like everything about everything. But if you think this is over, it's not. You think he's going to disappear into the sunrise or into the sunset. He's not. This is a fighting president, and he'll start a company. He'll help us. He'll help lead that. He'll help build an economy that won't be a divisive economy. But, we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see how this works out with Section 230, with the big companies. They have shown their true colors, just as the left has. So I want to thank President Donald J. Trump, not only for giving us an economy that helped me move up a couple notches on the pay scale from basic shack to not so basic shack, but I want to help him, or not help him, but I want to thank him for opening the blinds, per se, letting the sunlight in, opening the sliding glass door, letting in the fresh air, lifting the veil, as some would say, allowing us to see what was really going on and confirm the truth. Sometimes time moves a little differently, ladies and gentlemen. Time itself is experienced differently by different creatures, different people, different age groups. And one thing I know is that time gives everybody a chance in history. And so even though this seems like a defeat, we may have lost a battle, but we have a very long campaign ahead of us, fighting Marxism, socialism, the spread of the Great Reset. And things are going to be very interesting. And believe it or not, there's so much power in your voice. So much power. Don't be defeated. Don't be downtrodden. Don't let it go to waste. Ladies and gentlemen, we will prevail. I really want to say thank you for listening to this segment, folks. All right. If you can do me a favor, whatever you're watching on, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comments, leave likes. I know we're doing things behind the scenes. We're trying to get a new presence. Gab just came back up hard, so it seems to be working pretty well. So we're going to get into Gab, Cloud Hub as well. We're looking at American_Reveille on Gab, and James Lane, at the James Lane on Cloud Hub. Email me at American Reveille. That's James Lane at AmericanReveille.com. All right. REVEILLE. If you'd like to be on the Project Underground Railroad mailing list, you can do that, or you could just sign up for the newsletter on the site and it will automatically put you on there. But while social media is down and out, I'm trying to get you a listing every day of some of the current things going on, some of my thoughts, things that you would hear throughout the week on Parler and other places, so that you can at least stay informed. I really appreciate it. Again, sign up for the newsletter or email me directly, James Lane at AmericanReveille.com. Folks, even though we're listening on Apple, we're not happy with Apple. What I'm saying is that even though some of you are still listening on Apple, and I know a lot of people don't want to listen on Apple, remember that there's a whole audience of people we need to reach that need to be woken up. So if you happen to be listening on Apple and you're not telling anybody about it, do me a favor. Give me the 5-star rating. Leave a review. I don't want to support Apple either. I get it. But at the same time, millions of people are there listening to podcasts, and they need to hear this message. All right? That's why I haven't completely left this or left that. It's not that I'm participating in anything, but I'm keeping the door open on certain things so that if a patriot comes through, I'm there to wake them up. All right, folks? That doesn't mean I'm on Twitter or doing this or that. All that means is that I am still on, Audible. I'm still on Apple Podcasts. I'm not going to come off of those because patriots are on there. Patriots need to hear this message. Again, thank you guys so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you'd like to donate, www.AmericanReveille.com. Hit the donate tab. We're using all the money to upgrade the operation and the infrastructure of the American Reveille LLC. We really, really appreciate it, especially during these crazy, crazy times. Also, if you're wondering why you haven't gotten any mail from me and you're signed up to Project Underground Railroad or signed up just to the newsletter or whatever you're signed up to and you're wondering where the hell is it, check your spam folder, your junk and spam folder, folks. There's a couple hundred people. I promise you it's in your spam folder. So check it out. All right, folks, I'm done. I've been going on, blah, 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 blah. I'll save it for the next video and I will see you there. Bye. McConnell told them he was through with Trump, said the strategist who demanded anonymity. I always say that wrong. Anonymity. McConnell told them he was through with Trump, said the strategist who demanded McConnell told them he was through with Trump, said the strategist who demanded anonymity to describe anonymity. I said that wrong again. Anonymity. McConnell then told them he was through with Trump, said the strategist who demanded anonymity. McConnell told them he was through with Trump, said the strategist who then demanded anonymity. Anonymity.